Hello and welcome back to another video. This is the second episode of story in which Indra and Ashura never looked at each other directly. Even when they died, their chakra was transferred to Senju and Uchiha clan descendants. Hashirama and Madara met the same fate as their forefathers. Watch as Naruto reunites the two families and breaks the bond of hatred that afflicts the elemental nations. Please smash the like and subscribe buttons. Let's get started. Previously Jiraiya turned around just in time to see a man wearing an orange mask with a swirling pattern holding a crying Naruto with a kunai held at his throat. Before he could ask Minato or Tsunade what's going on, the masked man spoke. Present time, Yondaime Hokage, step away from the Jinchuriki or your child dies. Spoke the masked man calmly. Minato. Jiraiya and Tsunade shouted. Just calm down. We can work this out. Minato said. What do you want with Kushina, you bastard? Asked an enraged Tsunade. Oh, you know. Just this and that. Take the Kyuubi out and destroy the village. The masked man said in a sarcastic voice. You are not getting your hands on her. You got to deal with the three of us first, said Jiraiya. Jiraiya-sensei, do not do anything too quickly. He still has Naruto with him. We must get him to safety. Tsunade-sama, can you look after Kushina first? Minato asked without taking his eyes off the man who held his newborn. Tsunade nodded and was just about to move to Kushina when the masked man spoke again. Do you care about your child, Yondaime Hokage? The masked man asked. I do. Minato said. Choose now, Yondaime, the masked man shouted. With that, he tossed Naruto up into the air and held his kunai underneath, ready to kill him. Minato dashed across the room in a yellow flash and caught him. The man disappeared with speed and went to grab Kushina. Tsunade and Jiraiya, seeing the man move towards Kushina, went to intercept him with speeds that could only be rivaled by a Kage. Jiraiya had a Rasengan formed in his right hand and Tsunade had amassed a great amount of chakra in her left hand to smash the masked bastard into the next life. But what happened next caught all the people in the room off guard. The Rasengan in Jiraiya's hand and Tsunade's punch phased right through the masked man and he just walked right through them as if they weren't even there. What? Both Jiraiya and Tsunade asked, bewildered, before plowing straight through the wall leading outside. The masked man grabbed Kushina and disappeared, but not before going through a half-tiger sign when a sizzling sound was heard straight from Naruto's towel. Shit! Minato cursed before tearing off the towel and used Hiraishin to teleport them outside their house, when an explosion went off. Minato saw Tsunade and Jiraiya kneeling on the grass, silently cursing themselves for their lacks of judgment. Jiraiya-sensei, Tsunade-sama. Minato shouted and dashed over to them. I'm fine. We should have known better than to underestimate him. He got past the special ANBU outside and got through the barrier put up by you and Jiraiya. Tsunade said with a downcast look. We have to assume the worst. Get back to the village and inform Sandaime-sama of everything that has transpired here. Take Naruto with you, sensei, and keep him safe. Tsunade-sama, could you go and check on Rin? He may also be after her. Considering he's after the Kyuubi. Minato said before turning away. Alright. But where are you going, Minato? Tsunade asked, hopefully to put a stop to this before it even starts. Minato said, determined. Tsunade nodded and immediately ran back to the village. Jiraiya stepped in front of Minato and took Naruto away from him, who had quieted down now. Jiraiya turned to leave but Minato put a hand on his shoulder, stopping him for a moment. Let me mark you with my Hiraishin seal just in case. Push some chakra into it if you do require it. There was a silence, then Minato said, if all else fails. Promise you won't stop me from what I must do as the Hokage. Jiraiya froze on his spot when he heard those words from Minato and the look he had on his face. Jiraiya knew it all too well, that look on one's face. Jiraiya also knew that he was a tad bit afraid now. He was aware Minato was plenty strong, but you never know what may happen in the heat of the moment and what actions one may be forced to take depending on how dire the situation might become. Jiraiya had always looked at Minato like his own son, and these past few months had only strengthened their bond, and he hoped everyone remained safe after tonight's ordeal was done with. Jiraiya looked at Naruto, then at Minato and said, "I won't get in your way, and I will be the godfather that Naruto needs and make him into a fine man." Minato nodded and disappeared once more in a yellow flash. Jiraiya sighed and put Naruto down next to him. He went and bit his thumb, putting blood on the palm of his hands and going through hand signs and slamming his hands on the ground while saying, "Kuchios no Jutsu, summoning jutsu." There was a large cloud of smoke and Jiraiya was now standing atop a giant toad with Naruto in his arms again. The toad had a tanto on his side and was smoking a pipe. He also had a jacket on him. "Jiraiya. Why did you summon me?" "No time Gamabunta. The Kyuubi is about to be released. We have to reach the village fast, inform Sarutobi-sensei and get Naruto to safety. Let's go." Gamabunta said with a hop, taking off a long distance, trying to reach the Hokage office within Konoha as soon as possible. Minato soon appeared in the safe house which he had informed Jiraiya about a long time back and grabbed his trademark Yondaime Hokage robes hanging off the wall. He then grabbed a full set of tri-pronged kunai and geared up. He checked himself over to make sure he was ready for what he was about to do and what he might have to do if the situation got out of hand. This wasn't supposed to happen. I don't know how it turned out like this. Naruto should have had a normal birth and then Kushina, Naruto, and I were supposed to live normally. Guess it wasn't written like that. No. I must not think like that. I can still save Kushina and my village. I just hope we don't have more trouble than we already have coming our way tonight. I'm coming. Kushi-chan. Minato disappeared in a yellow flash towards Kushina's current location, thinking along those lines. Meanwhile Tsunade was running as fast as she could towards the hospital to make sure Shizune and Rin were okay. She soon reached the hospital and ran towards their room. She saw the guards posted outside the room were dead on the ground and she instantly grew worried and rushed inside the room. The first thing she saw was the aqua blue colored chakra that was bubbling out of Rin's seal, and next to her bed was a bloodied Shizune, who was breathing heavily. Tsunade ran up to Shizune and started healing her immediately. Many of her worst memories were resurfacing now, seeing Shizune in her current state. Shizune was one of the closest people she had, and seeing her like this reminded her a lot of the time when she was trying to save Dan. She quickly ignored those thoughts and focused on healing Shizune. She then saw that Shizune's breathing had stabilized somewhat and knew she was out of danger as of now. She then looked at Rin and felt remorse of not being able to reach here quicker and growing anger towards the masked man, who most likely was the reason behind this scene, she mused. There was nothing she could do now. She couldn't go near her or touch her. The bijou chakra that was bubbling out of her was poisonous to human skin and would only serve to weaken her. She only had one choice left. Grab Shizune, get out of here and try saving those who would be able to survive the coming attack on Konohagakure no Sato. The combined attack of the 9 tails and the 3 tails was not something any village could come out unscathed, but she had hope in her village. They had come out of worse situations and emerged victorious. But she wondered what the cost would be this time, that is, if they do somehow come out of this predicament. Tsunade kept staring at Rin for a few while. Looking at her, she assumed it would still be a few minutes before the seal set by Minato and Jiraiya would break and release the Sanbai into the village. She picked up Shizune and jumped through the open window and went to a slightly far-away area, away from the center of the village, where she can treat the younger girl properly. Tsunade then made a seal-less Kage Bunshin and ordered it to inform Sarutobi-sensei of Rin's situation. A field outside of the forests of Konohagakure no Sato. The masked man had taken the unconscious Kushina outside of Konoha, to rip the Kyuubi out of the Uzumaki woman. The masked man's 3-tomo Sharingan had now morphed into the legendary Manjikyu Sharingan. It is true that the Manjikyu Sharingan has the capability to put the 9 tails under its genjutsu, but having the capability doesn't mean everyone can do it. One needs immense mental fortitude and strong yin chakra to be able to pull of such feat. Kushina was now suspended in midair because of the Fuinjutsu seal that held the 9 tails back was almost undone. Kushina, however, was now near death, and if the seal released there was a good chance she would die. She was suspended above a lake, the Fuinjutsu chained her to the surrounding rocks, and in front of her stood the masked man. "How does it feel, Uzumaki Kushina?" he asked mockingly. All she could do was breathe to keep herself alive and to restrain the Kyubi as much as her will could allow. But her hold was weakening. "Now, it is time, I suppose, for the 9-tailed demon fox to put Konoha down," the man said before making a hand sign. He channeled chakra through himself and formed a contract seal on Kushina's seal and said, "Kai. Release." The seal on Kushina that was holding the Kyubi back completely shattered. The vile red chakra of the 9 tails started coming of Kushina and started taking a shape behind her. Very soon, the tails started forming and in a mere seconds the great Kyubi no Yoko was unleashed once again in the mortal realm. The fox unleashed a great roar before looking down at the heavily breathing Kushina and the masked man that was staring at the Kyubi with those accursed red eyes. Kushina tilted her head slightly, looking at the Kyubi. Unlike most people who assumed the great Kyubi no Yoko to be mindless demon, the beast was aware that his host was a descendant of his father's son, Ashura Otsutsuki. He was not close to Kushina, but he did not hate her as much, unlike the other humans. The Kyubi raised one of its paws to strike the masked man, but was stopped by a single glance from him. The masked man stood in front of Kyubi and saw it began to calm down and was now under control. "You'll never get away with this," Kushina said, breathing heavily. "Amazing. To be able to survive the extraction of a tailed beast. Those Uzumaki genes are indeed astonishing. It will be befitting for a Jinchuriki to die by its own bijou," the masked man said, looking at her. "Kill her, Kyubi," he ordered. Just as the 9 tails was about to strike her down, Minato appeared beside her and vanished with Kushina in a yellow flash. "Not while I'm alive," Minato shouted. "Namikaze Minato, still living up to your name of Konoha no Kiroi Senko. I'm impressed that you managed to find me first," the masked man said calmly. "As long as I'm here, Konoha will not fall." Minato said, "The Kyubi is mine now, you cannot stop me," the man said before the Kyubi roared at Minato. The Kyubi's tails extended and whipped out to attack Minato, but the Hokage had already flashed a safe distance away, with Kushina in his arms. "Impressive, Yondaime Hokage. Let's see how your precious village deals with 2-tailed beasts at the same time," said the masked man before pulling the 9-tailed fox into some sort of spacetime ninjutsu and disappearing along with it. Minato looked at this and frowned slightly, seeing how the spiral seemed to originate from his mask. He took a good look at Kushina and noticed how her breathing was very minimal at this point. He held her hand and transferred some of his chakra to her. His chakra was not as potent as Kushina's, but it would do the job for now. "Minato," she said between heavy breaths. "Shh now. Stay quiet. It's going to be okay," Minato said. "No, it's not. I was dead as soon the 9 tails was taken out of me. Promise me. You will take care of Naruto," Kushina pleaded. I promise," Minato said, not looking straight at Kushina's face. She slightly nodded before closing her eyes and giving a slight smile. Her breathing was still heavy and he knew she might not make it. Minato now had tears sliding off his face onto her. Why, he asked himself. He wiped away his tears, then he took his wife close into his arms and flashed to the Hokage's office to regroup with Jiraiya, Tsunade and Sarutobi as he thought of the most likely place where all might be present together. Inside the village it was quiet in the industrial part of the village. It was a full moon tonight in Konohagakure no Sato and the village seemed almost peaceful. But those who were outside in other parts of the village at this time suddenly felt a sudden chill go down their spines, especially the shinobi. The buildings were mostly closed since it was the night time. The masked man landed softly on the ground and kneeled. He looked around to take in the surroundings. He almost smirked, thinking about the state of the village after his two pets would be done with this village. He then went through hand signs swiftly and shouted, Kuchios no Jutsu. There was a huge cloud of smoke where suddenly the Kyubi no Yoko was standing and all its 9 tails were swishing wildly behind it. It gave a tremendous roar alerting the village of its presence. The masked man stood on top of a building far away and smirked. Now all he was waiting for was the appearance of the 3 tails, which would be any second now, and then he would put the 3 tails under his genjutsu to do his bidding. In another part of the village, specifically the hospital, in Rin's room. Her seal containing the sanbai was almost undone. In another few seconds, there came a massive surge of chakra from her body and the 3 tails escaped its prison, crushing the hospital where it was now standing. The sanbai at this point of time was not in its current state of mind. After being sealed away in humans for so long, it wanted nothing more than to destroy these ninjas, humans, who dared to seal him. He looked straight ahead and saw a masked man with an orange mask. The man looked at the 3 tails straight in the eye, and the last thing the sanbai would remember for a while would be the masked bastard. Go 3 tails. Enjoy your time out for the while. Destroy everything around you. Shouted the masked man darkly. An hour earlier Hiruzen was now working at the Hokage's office with a small pile of paperwork in front of him. He did not know how Minato could go through his paperwork at such an immense speed. He cursed himself for not thinking like Minato and continued working. He stamped denial for a shinobi to take leave from his services to the village for a while to rest. He did not even know why his shinobi would want leave at such a crucial period. The war was over only recently, and for the time being, the village needed to undertake more missions to maintain their military strength. He was thinking on these lines when suddenly the door to the Hokage's office was broken down with what he guessed was a punch. The umbu hidden in the office immediately stepped in front of the sandame to protect him from any harm. Tsunade stepped inside the office with a worried look on her face. Upon seeing who the intruder was, Sarutobi ordered the umbu to step away. Tsunade, what is the meaning of this? Asked the third sternly. Sensei. It's Rin. Her seal is about to be undone. The sanbai is going to be released. Spoke Tsunade in a rapid voice. Hiruzen immediately turned his rapt attention to her upon hearing that. What do you mean? Where was Shizune? I thought she would be looking after her while you were with Kushina. Speaking of Kushina, where is she now? Seeing as you are not with her. Inquired Sarutobi. I am just a Kage Bunshin. The real one is with Shizune, healing her. When I entered the hospital room, she was knocked out and lying on the ground, bloodied. It was most likely the masked. Before Tsunade could finish what she was saying, both her and Sarutobi felt a large shockwave. Umbu. What was that? A large toad has appeared outside the Hokage Tower. Sandame-sama, spoke one of the umbu. Tsunade and Sarutobi both knew who it was when they heard the shockwave was caused by a large toad. I will explain everything, sensei. Jiraiya said, jumping in through the window. He turned and looked at the umbu and said, place the village on emergency orders. Inform the clan heads immediately to keep their clan members hidden in a safe place and evacuate the civilians as soon as possible. Tell the clan heads they will informed of the situation after and if the situation has been dealt with. Hi, the umbu shouted before disappearing from their spots. Hiruzen stood and looked at Tsunade first and then at Jiraiya, who was holding Naruto in his arms. Prepare yourself, Sarutobi-sensei. The Kyuubi is about to be unsealed and released inside Konohagakure if Minato fails. What are you talking about, Jiraiya? How could this happen? First Tsunade tells me the Three Tails is about to be released any moment now, and now the Nine Tails too, shouted the aged man in a panicked voice. Jiraiya immediately turned to Tsunade and gave her a knowing look. So, the masked man got to her too? This is terrible. If we are not careful, there will not be a village standing here tomorrow. Facing the Nine Tails itself is no joke, on top of that the Three Tails. God damn it, shouted an agitated Jiraiya. Explain, briefly, spoke the third Hokage turning to Tsunade. When Naruto was born, I was about to take him to the maternity ward when suddenly a masked man appeared and snatched Naruto from me and held a kunai at his throat, saying if we didn't move away from Kushina he would kill him. Tsunade said. Did either you, Minato or Jiraiya try to apprehend him? We did. But all our attacks phased right through him. It was like he wasn't even there to begin with. Jiraiya spoke now. We are sorry, Sarutobi-sensei. Your wife, Biwako-sama, was killed by the masked assailant. Spoke Tsunade sadly. Jiraiya too looked sadly at his sensei, knowing how close he was to his wife. Sarutobi upon hearing this, looked down at his feet and did not say anything. Many images and memories Biwako and him flashed through his mind. But he could not let himself break down at this point. His village needed him now. This was the life of a shinobi, he mused. Marching forward no matter what. Where is Minato now? Asked Sarutobi after some silence. Suddenly there was a yellow flash in the room and Minato was standing there with Kushina in his arms. Tsunade-sama, could you heal Kushina as much as possible, please? Asked Minato quickly. Minato then put Kushina on a nearby sofa and Tsunade knelt in front of her and started to heal her. Minato, what happened to Kushina? Was the Kyuubi extracted out of her? Asked the aged Hokage worriedly. Yes. It was. I was late in getting to Kushina. That masked man had already put the Kyuubi under his genjutsu. I believe him to be an Uchiha. But the only Uchiha who was remotely able to control the Nine Tails was Madara. I don't know for sure if it is him or not. Said Minato. Jiraiya then stepped in front of Minato and looked him in the eyes. Minato, you know there's no choice other than sealing the Kyuubi into him as well. It was not an easy job for Jiraiya to admit that to Minato, but it was the truth. Sarutobi and Tsunade got astonished looks on their faces upon hearing that statement. Jiraiya continued speaking, now with a serious look on his face, the Hack Fuin is capable of holding up to at least 4-tailed beasts. I could use the Shiki Fuin to seal both the 9 tails and 3 tails inside of Naruto. With the seal being powered by the Shinigami, it will be powerful enough to seal those two for a lifetime. No, Jiraiya-sensei. It shall not be required of you. I had thought of the possibilities already as soon as the masked man told me about 2-tailed beasts attacking Konoha. I am going to do the sealing. Minato said softly, looking at Kushina. Kushina, who was awake, had heard the conversation. She wanted to protest and say it would not be good for her Naruto to lead such a life without his parents around, but her logical part was saying to go with what Minato was saying. Because if not, her baby and her village may not be alive in a few hours. What? Are you even thinking straight, you two? Shouted Tsunade. Sealing 2 bijus inside of him. Will Naruto be even able to handle such stress on his chakra coils? The potency of 9 tails and the 3 tails chakra combined would be enormous. You can't do that to Naruto. He would not survive the sealing, even if the Hack Fuin is capable of imprisoning both the bijus. What about you, Minato? You are the Hokage. The village will need you. Tsunade said, trying to put down this messed up idea. Jiraiya went to retort and say something but quieted down upon seeing Minato raise his hand. I understand your concern, Tsunade-sama. But, Naruto, he's mine and Kushina's son. I believe in him. He will be able to handle the pressure. I want him to grow up in this village, to understand what a shinobi is, to understand what a village is. To form a bond with this village. I know he will grow up to be an important figure. Minato said with a small smile on his face. He continued, I am the Yondaime Hokage of Konohagakure no Sato. I am supposed to lead from the front so none of my comrades would suffer. They all depend on me. It is my duty as this village's leader to save her from perishing, no matter the cost. Jiraiya-sensei once told me, a shinobi's life is not judged by how he lives his life, but by how he dies. If I die protecting and saving my village today, I will know that, for the future, she will be in capable hands. He said looking down at Naruto's sleeping form. The participants of the room upon hearing it couldn't help but shed a few tears. The Sandaime was glad he had picked Minato as his successor. The will of fire he exuded was one Hashirama-sensei and Tobirama-sensei talked about. Jiraiya felt extremely proud of his student at this point. Although he was bitter that he wouldn't see his student alive much longer, he couldn't help but feel proud of the decisions Minato has made up to this point. Tsunade wanted to yell at him, but stopped when Kushina pressed her hand with her own and gave her a look saying not to say anything. Kushina herself had tears flowing out her eyes. Minato-kun, give me Naruto. I want to hold him close to me for some time. Kushina said in a soft voice. Tsunade had healed her internal injuries as much as she could, including her chakra network. Although, Tsunade knew, if she were to use her chakra for prolonged time, she would not live to see another day. Minato slowly took Naruto from his sensei and for a while just looked at him. Naruto soon opened his eyes and looked at him with those curious innocent violet eyes and yawned in his arms, making him look even more adorable. He felt his resolve weaken to sacrifice himself for the village and his son, but he knew he had to do it, if he wanted his son and the village to have a future. He then placed Naruto in his wife's hands. Naruto seemed to recognize Kushina and Tsunade who were looking at him with somber looks. He put out his tiny hands forward and held a few red locks of Kushina's hair, which made the Uzumaki woman smile a bit. Tsunade then went closer to Naruto and kissed him on the forehead and whispered, "Don't worry Naru-chan. You will have a wonderful life ahead. I will make sure of it." Naruto seemed to gurgle a bit upon hearing that. He yawned again and closed his eyes slowly. Jiraiya, Hiruzen and Minato smiled upon seeing the interaction between the three. After a short silence, Hiruzen cleared his throat to speak. "If that is what you wish Minato. We need to form an immediate plan of action to deal with the two Bijus. I don't think we have much time," said Sarutobi. "I will go deal with the masked man to free the Kyuubi from under his control. Sarutobi-sama, would you and the other shinobi be able to push the Kyuubi out of the village and hold him down for a while?" Hiruzen nodded, listening to Minato. "Tsunade-sama and Jiraiya-sensei can handle the Sanbai in that time. After the masked man has been dealt with and I appear before the Kyuubi, Hiruzen-sama will go join up with Jiraiya-sensei and Tsunade-sama. I shall mark all of you with my Hiration marker. I will teleport with the Kyuubi once it's freed from the Genjutsu to the outside forests of Konoha and I shall then summon you three while you are holding down the Sanbai to the Kyuubi's location. My Kage Bunshins will take Kushina and Naruto there in advance. Kushina will be able to hold down the Kyuubi and the Sanbai with her Kongo Fuso chains, once she has recovered enough for that. I shall then use the Shiki Fuin to summon the Shinigami and seal both the 9 tails and the 3 tails using the Hack Fuin seal on Naruto." Minato said, forming the plan in his head as quickly as possible. Everyone seemed to agree with the course of action. They knew Minato was stronger than them and he would be fine on his own against the 9 tails. Minato then looked at Jiraiya and said, "Sensei, when the time comes, I want you to help him master the 9 tails and 3 tails chakra. The Kyuubi is said to be the strongest of all Bijus and is said to have near unlimited chakra. I believe there will come a time, when Naruto will require their assistance. Seeing how the masked man knew about both the Kyuubi and the Sanbai, it is possible to think that he also knows the Jinchuriki of other Bijus. Please do look after him. Minato said the last part in a downcast voice. Sarutobi could not help but feel sad seeing the current situation. Naruto, not even a day since he came to this world and he was already losing both his parents. Tsunade-sama, I would like to request something of you. Minato said in a small voice. Tsunade looked at him and urged him to continue. Would you look after Naruto as your own son, after tonight? I know it's asking a lot of you. But he will need a mother figure in his life. Kushina will not survive the night. Even with her Uzumaki genes, the way the Kyuubi was extracted from her, I'm sure it has left her chakra network haywire. He will need balance in his life. Would you do it, Tsunade-sama? For a moment, she did not say anything. She looked at Naruto again and saw his sleeping form. She was startled that Minato would ask her to look after Naruto as her own son. She knew growing up without parents would be hard for Naruto, and if by any chance the village comes to know of his Jinchuriki status, his life would become a living hell. She then thought about how her life would change if she does adopt Naruto. She couldn't help but feel happy upon thinking of raising Naruto as her own son. She never had a child of her own, and raising Naruto as a senju will keep her legacy alive, even after her time comes. Tsunade looked at Minato with a determined face and said, yes, don't worry. I shall be the mother he needs. I will look after him like my own flesh and blood. Minato felt a little weight taken off his shoulders upon hearing that. He at least knew his son would grow up being loved by a mother figure. Kushina, too, felt happy and squeezed Tsunade's hand as a thank you gesture with her free hand. Suddenly they all felt a tremendous shockwave and they saw the imposing figure of the Kyuubi standing within the village. Not even a minute later, there was another large burst of chakra and the Three Tails was standing in another part of the village, particularly the crushed hospital. They all shared a knowing look and knew what was to come. They could see the Umbu running around the village, trying to evacuate as many civilians they could. Jiraiya immediately left towards the Three Tails and Tsunade's Kage Bunshin dispelled herself to let the real one know of all the things discussed inside the office. The Sandaime summoned Monkey King Enma. He too left in the direction of the Nine Tails. Minato sat down in a lotus position and quickly started amassing Senjutsu chakra. His eyes changed to become bar-like and the outside of his eyes gained orange pigmentation. He got up from his position and took 2 sheets of paper from his drawer. He handed one to Kushina, who looked slightly better from the time he rescued her. Her healing abilities astonished him, even to this day. Kushina, we should probably write a few words for Naruto for when he grows up. I will write instructions for Tsunade-sama to give this letter to Naruto once he's of age, to learn his true heritage. Minato said in a sad voice. Both the Kage-level shinobi wrote few words as quickly as possible for their son, a few lines in Kushina's case, since she still felt very weak. Whatever she was doing right now was solely due to her willpower, and then Minato put it on top of the Hokage's table. Minato quickly made 2 Kage Bunshins and gave them orders to take Kushina and Naruto to the place he intended to do the sealing ritual. Once Kushina and Naruto were out of sight, Minato steeled his resolve. He sensed out the masked man's chakra and disappeared to his location in a yellow flash. Meanwhile, all the clan heads had been informed about the imminent threat of the Kyuubi and the Sanbai in Konoha. Panic, fear and worry were the obvious reactions from everyone. As soon as they received word of the information, they started gathering their respective civilians from the clansmen and began to get to safety. Those who were capable shinobi were preparing to go on the front line to get as many villagers to safety and contribute in staying in Kyuubi until their Hokage would arrive. Hiruzen, Jiraiya and Tsunade had regrouped for a couple of seconds on top of a building which gave them a wide view of the entire village. There were dozens of Umbu along with them on top of the building. Looking around the village, the 3 Kage-level shinobi witnessed as the 2 bijus thrashed their tails and destroyed several buildings. Many villagers were caught off guard due to the sudden attack, but they could also see several shinobi getting the civilians to safety. "Umbu, we move out and defend Konoha." "Hai!" shouted the dozens of Umbu behind Hiruzen before dashing off into the distance to hold off the Kyubi and the Sanbai until their Hokage could deal with the tailed beasts. "Jiraiya, Tsunade," Hiruzen said, gaining their attention, "make sure everything goes as to the plan. Times ahead of us will not be easy. But, we must do what we must, for our village to exist in a few hours. This is our duty as ninja of Konohagakure no Sato. Scatter." Jiraiya and Tsunade listened intently to each word spoken by their sensei. They knew how serious the situation in front of them was and they had to give it their all to come out of this alive. Both the Sanins immediately dashed towards the 3 tails. The Kyubi and the Sanbai were engaged by many ninja from Konoha, moving to distract the beast, preventing damage that would be done. Many shouts could be heard from the different parts of the village where the 2 beasts were rampaging around. "Yo! Kyubi! Over here," shouted one, throwing a bunch of shuriken at the beast. "No! Kyubi over here," shouted another, throwing kunai with explosive tags. Of course, none of this did anything except pester the beast, making it more enraged. The Kyubi roared and flicked its tails to get rid of the annoying flies. In another part of the village near the hospital, the Sanbai was staying put in his place and splashing water from its mouth all around himself to wash away the annoying humans who were throwing different weapons at him. "Sanbai! You blind? I'm over here. Where do you think you're aiming, you beast?" shouted an Umbu who succeeded in gaining the biju's attention. The Sanbai was about to squash the ninjins with his paw when suddenly a kunai with an explosive tag exploded near his right eye, which he kept close all the time. Irritated by this action, the Sanbai went to open its mouth and started gathering blue and black chakra near its mouth. The shinobi battling the 3 tails knew, whatever the beast was doing was nothing good. Just as the Sanbai was going to launch the bijudama on the shinobi in front of it, a chakra-enhanced punch by Tsunade sent it flying up, which in effect sent the bijudama flying up and exploded away from the village. "Everyone stay back, Jiraiya and I will deal with the 3 tails. Some of you go to Sarutobi-sensei and help him deal with the Kyubi. The rest stay behind and come forward when we ask you to," Tsunade said, still looking up towards the Sanbai who was now descending. "Jiraiya, you are up now. Summon your battle toads fast," shouted Tsunade, who looked at Jiraiya standing atop a nearby building. The toad sage jumped high up in the air, sending a minuscule burst of chakra to his soles, and swiftly went through a similar set of hand seals and put an immense amount of chakra this time. "Kuchios, Yatai Kazushi no Jutsu." Summoning Jutsu, food cart destroyer technique, out of nowhere a giant toad appeared above the 3 tails and landed on top of him, causing a shockwave to spread through the village. The toad took out its tanto and stabbed into one of the tails. The beast screamed and tried to parry off the toad, but to no avail. "Stay down, you damn turtle," the toad shouted. "Nice job, Bunta. Tsunade, quick. Try knocking the Sanbai out by punching its shell," Jiraiya shouted, standing on top of the toad boss. Tsunade, seeing the beast struggling, jumped up, gave another chakra-enhanced punch to the Sanbai's hard shell at maximum strength. Upon contact of Tsunade's fists with Sanbai's shell, there was another shockwave and the large turtle felt weak on its legs and just fell momentarily knocked out. And with Gamabunta on top of him applying more pressure, the tailed beast wasn't getting up anytime soon. Now, it is believed that the 3 tails shell is among the hardest thing on this planet. So, to be able to crack that hard shell with a single punch was saying something. Jiraiya shivered upon seeing Tsunade's monstrous strength. Good lord! I didn't think she would crack the 3 tails shell. Man, the beating she gave me a few years back when I got caught peeking on her seems like a blessing. That's how you beat a damn overgrown turtle. said Tsunade, proud of her handiwork. Jiraiya just sweat dropped on hearing that. The shinobi who were standing behind and watching the entire scene were shell-shocked on seeing the beast down for a while. They all had heard of Tsunade's monstrous strength but never knew the extent of it. Amazing! Such great strength! So, this is the power possessed by one of the Sanins, said one of the awestruck Umbu. Alright, for Umbu come here and form a Shishiinjin barrier across us. That would immobilize the three tails from going elsewhere, formulated Jiraiya. The Umbu did as they were told and formed a purplish barrier trapping the three tails, Jiraiya, Gamabunta, and Tsunade. Inside the barrier, phew, it's a relief, this turtle got put down for a while, said Tsunade. Yes. That is. Now, all we have to do is wait for Minato to summon us to the location of the sealing ritual, said Jiraiya tiredly. Few minutes earlier in a forested area outside Konoha, Minato had soon appeared in a forested area outside of Konoha and came face to face with the masked man. Both the men were eyeing each other, but the yondaime could swear the masked man was smirking upon seeing the fate of the village. This time, yondaime, we fight on even grounds, said the masked man. I wouldn't call having the Sharingan fighting even, now would I? Are you Uchiha Madara? Minato said. Maybe. Maybe not. Who I am, is not important or relevant to this world anymore. Yes. It doesn't matter who you are. Madara Uchiha or not, I shall put you down. Why are you targeting the Leaf Village? Minato asked. Who knows, said the man as he brought a long chain, some of it wrapped around his hand from his black cloak. Maybe it's for war, maybe it's for the peace that I want to bring to this accursed world. Minato did not say anything to that. This man had dangerous ideals. He looked at the man before him who was shrugging as if warming up, then saw the chains drop down from his cloak. He looked ready to fight. Minato took out his tri-pronged kunai from his pocket and prepared to engage him, when suddenly the man laughed. What is so funny? Asked a confused Minato. You are clueless, yondaime. The Kyuubi cannot be stopped, unless sealed once more. You do not have to worry about the Kyuubi. His fate has already been sealed by me. I intend to stop to you first and then the Nine Tails. Konoha shall not fall while I'm here. So, you plan to make your son the Jinchuriki, huh? You sure that will turn out for the best, yondaime? The masked man taunted. Minato observed the man carefully, looking for any sign of body language before asking, what are you talking about? I'm talking about your son, yondaime. I know about him. To be raised by the slug Sannin and that idiot of a toad sage. I even know about sealing the Sanbai into him as well. How do you know such information? Asked an enraged Minato. He shouldn't be knowing all that. No one should be. He thought. Ah, don't fret over such pointless information, yondaime. I have my sources to gather such things, said the masked man casually. I look forward to fighting him in the future. This ends now. I won't let you get the chance, Minato said before throwing his kunai at the masked man. The man simply gave a huff of air and let the kunai phase through him, but not before seeing the yondaime charge towards him, a blue spiraling ball in his right hand. Rasengan. Of course, this attack too simply passed through him. Too slow, yondaime, the man said before he pulled on his chains and whirling around to face him, only to find he had disappeared again. He sighed and turned to face the Hokage still waiting in the clearing. Minato still had the Rasengan in his right hand and had two tri-pronged kunai in his left hand. You cannot hope to defeat an Uchiha, said the masked man. We'll see about that. Minato muttered to himself, before throwing the first kunai, and charging at the man. The Sage Mode helped Minato go at much faster pace than before. Minato moved as fast as the kunai behind it and planning his attack carefully. The man ran to meet him, and let the kunai phase through him. The masked man then stretched his hand and said, I win. Hirashin Reburu Ni, Hirashin Level 2. Minato shouted and disappeared, appearing behind the man and snatching his kunai between his fingers and slamming the Rasengan in his hand into the man. Damn it! He flew to the kunai from earlier. I underestimated him. The masked man thought. How about that? Minato asked. Impressed much? Now, you will definitely be. Minato deposited his kunai in his kunai pouch and went through hand signs quickly before the man could recover and slammed his hand onto the man's chest and shouted, Kyaki Fuin, contract seal. The man cursed himself and felt his control on the Kyubi and the Sanbai released all at once. He no longer had hold over the two beasts. Then he looked up at the man who ruined all his plans with a fire burning in his eyes. Then he said, I must hand it to you Yondaime Hokage, being able to wound me and sever my ties with the Kyubi in the Sanbai is not something to laugh at, but no matter. The Kyubi and the Sanbai will be my playthings again. I will take over the world and there are so many ways to go around it. Then the masked man used his teleportation jutsu and disappeared before Minato's eyes. So, I was right. He is after the Jinchuriki. If Naruto is to face him sometime in the future, he is going to need something extremely powerful by his side. Minato thought. He had many thoughts going through his head at a rapid pace. He knew the Kyubi and the Sanbai were still attacking the village and he had to seal them into his newborn soon. He did not like that one bit, but he had no choice in the matter. Naruto was the only one he could entrust this burden to. Back in Konohagakure Hiruzen appeared standing atop a nearby building where the Kyubi was causing havoc. The shinobi battling the Kyubi sighed in relief upon seeing the Sandaime joining the battle. Kuchios, Monkey King Enma, summoning, Monkey King Enma, shouted Sarutobi after going through the hand signs for the summoning jutsu. There was a puff of smoke that appeared beside Hiruzen, who stood in full battle armor. It was a monkey that stood slightly taller than the aged Hokage. The monkey looked around before noticing the fox, and said, So, the Kyubi has been unleashed now Hiruzen. Minato didn't do a very good job. He said. There were circumstances that were unpreventable. Hiruzen said. I can see that. Henge, Kongonioi. Transformation, adamantine staff. Enma then turned from his monkey form into a large adamantine staff that Hiruzen then gripped and allowed to extend into the Kyubi, smacking him in his head. The Kyubi became enraged and flicked its tail, smacking several shinobi away from him. Hiruzen saw his chance and extended his staff again, pushing Kyubi through the wall and outside the village. The Kyubi, enraged by this, started charging up a Bijudama. Minato appeared at the battle site soon after dealing with the masked man, standing on top of his head at the Hokage monument. He looked at the fierce battle going on in the distance and noticed the Kyubi getting more agitated and began charging up a Bijudama. Minato cursed himself silently and started to go through hand signs. Then the Kyubi turned straight towards Minato and launched in straight at him. Minato finished the hand signs and brought out his signature tri-pronged kunai and held it out in front of him and began the space-time ninjutsu. Out came what looked like a Fuinjutsu seal but had a gaping hole in the middle of it and the Bijudama went straight inside of it. The giant purple chakra ball disappeared inside and seconds later, a huge explosion could be heard a long distance away from the village. He smirked to himself at his quick thinking. Sarutobi looked at the Bijudama, as it was launched towards the Hokage monument and panicked slightly, when he saw Minato on top of it. He smiled and saw him use a spacetime ninjutsu to make the Bijudama disappear. He then turned serious again at the looming threat of the Kyubi. He gripped Enma who was still in his hands and charged at the nine-tailed fox. Minato then ran as quick as possible over the rooftops and jumped high above the Kyubi and went through hand signs again. He was still in his sage mode, hence his chakra reserves were getting replenished quickly and so were his earlier injuries. Minato then shouted. Kuchios, Yatai Kazushi no Jutsu, and a giant green toad with 2 Tonto strapped to his back and dressed in a battle toad attire came out of nowhere and dropped on the giant fox. On top of the toad, stood Minato, looking down at the Kyuubi who was charging yet another Bijudama. He cursed again and started gathering chakra, preparing to Hiration himself and the fox away. Hiruzen and the shinobi who were battling the Kyuubi were getting exhausted. They were firing jutsu after jutsu and yet there was not even a single scratch on the giant beast. So, upon seeing their Yondaime Hokage in the fox being put down by the giant toad, they cheered. "It's the Yondaime," a ninja cheered around him. Hiruzen smiled upon seeing him, wondering what he would do now. So, when he saw both the fox and his successor disappear he was astonished. Suddenly Hiruzen felt a tap from behind his shoulders and turned to look around. "Sandaime-sama, I'm just a Kage Bunshin, you should go to Jiraiya-sensei and Tsunade-sama now. I shall summon you to the sealing ritual place in a few minutes. All 3 of you, hold on to 1 tail of the Sanbai each," said Minato's Kage Bunshin. Sandaime sighed upon realizing that everything was going to plan up till now and then nodded to the Kage Bunshin and asked it to dispel himself. "All of the shinobi present here, get as many injured you can out of here and set up medical camps so we can get them treated after everything has been dealt with," Hiruzen said in a loud authoritative voice. "Hai Sandaime-sama," voiced the shinobi and got to doing their work. Sarutobi immediately left towards Jiraiya and Tsunade's location hoping to get there as soon as possible. Jiraiya was not having a fun time. Sitting on top of Gamabunta and constantly channeling chakra through himself and the boss toad to be ready at any given moment for the Sanbai to make a move. Tsunade too was slightly exhausted. The amount of chakra she had put while punching the Sanbai on its shell was enormous. The Umbu who were sustaining the barrier around the Sanins and the tailed beast were feeling the strain too and were worried about the situation with the 9 tails. Hiruzen suddenly landed in front of them. "Umbu dropped the barrier immediately," said the Sarutobi. "Sensei. What's going on? Who's dealing with the Kyuubi now? Is Minato done with the masked man?" asked Jiraiya rapidly. "The Kyuubi has been teleported by Minato to the sealing ritual place. He asked me to come here and join you. Get down here fast. We must each hold on to a tail of the Sanbai and channel chakra through the Hiration seal placed on us," Sarutobi said quickly. So, then he freed the 2 bijus from the masked man's control. "That Minato is too good for his age," said Tsunade, smirking, while going towards one of the tails. Jiraiya too smiled upon hearing it. His apprentice wasn't a SS-class shinobi for nothing, he mused. Soon, the 3 Kage-level shinobi caught one of tails of the beast and channeled chakra through the Hiration seal placed on them. The Umbus standing around them were wondering what each of them was doing when suddenly they saw Hiruzen, Jiraiya, Tsunade and the 3 tails disappearing out of their sights. Minato teleported the Kyuubi to the sealing ritual place and immediately fell on his knees panting. He was running dangerously low on chakra now and his sage mode had long since faded. He saw Kushina to the side along with Naruto who was resting on her lap sleeping peacefully. He had a few tears coming from his eyes upon seeing his child. He never wanted all of this to happen to his child. He steeled his resolve then and approached them. "Kushi-chan. It's time. Hold down the Kyuubi with your chakra chains. Then I will summon Jiraiya-sensei, Tsunade-sama and Hiruzen-sama along with the Sanbai here, and we can proceed with the sealing," Minato said somberly. "No. I change my mind. We can't do this to our baby child. Please understand Minato. He's my son. How can we do this?" Kushina shouted as her motherly instincts kicked in. "It's not any easier for me to do this, Kushina. Try looking at it from my point of view. I cannot do it to another child and ask another parent to make this sacrifice. I am the Hokage of this village and I must do what is necessary to look after it. Plus, Naruto. I trust in him. He will grow up to be a fine and powerful shinobi one day. I can feel it. And to fight the masked man, he will need the biju's help. The masked man was no joke. He was a powerful opponent. I couldn't kill him. He escaped in time. Minato said, looking down. Minato then took Naruto from her arms and Kushina, who was on her knees still feeling extremely weak. She summoned her will to subdue the Nine Tails through her chakra chains. Minato was panting hard with Naruto in his arms. The Kyuubi was trying all it could to break free of the restraints. Suddenly he felt a pull on the Hiration marker he placed on his sensei, Tsunade-sama and Hiruzen. Minato then quickly amassed large amount of chakra and summoned those three along with the three tails, who seemed to be knocked out for the moment. Good. Sanbai won't try to lash out and increase Kushina's problem of holding down two bijus. She is already struggling with the Kyuubi. Thought Minato. Hiruzen, Jiraiya ran to Minato's side and Tsunade immediately ran to Kushina's. Tsunade put both her hands on Kushina's shoulder and started transferring some of her chakra to her. Kushina felt slightly rejuvenated upon receiving chakra and her hold on the Nine Tails increased, which infuriated the giant fox to no end. So, Isabu is also here. What is the Yondaime planning to do with us now, thought the enraged Kyuubi. Minato? Are you sure you're up for this? I can still do it in your place, if you want. Jiraiya said sadly, looking at his protégé. Yes sensei. I'm alright. I must do it. It's my job as the Hokage and it is a father's duty to ensure their child's future. Minato said, breathing a bit heavily now. Sarutobi-sama. You must take the mantle of the Hokage back, I suppose, for the time being. There's no one else better for the job now. I doubt Jiraiya-sensei or Tsunade-sama would want it right now. Minato said, chuckling a bit at the end. Jiraiya just scoffed and looked away, not being able to look at Minato now. Hiruzen, although reluctantly and sadly nodded his head. Stay back now. Jiraiya-sensei, Tsunade-sama, Sarutobi-sama, I suppose it's time for the sealing now. I am so sorry, kid. Whispered Jiraiya more to himself than Minato. Hiruzen along with Jiraiya and Tsunade walked a distance back from where Minato, Kushina and Naruto were, along with the two bijus. Minato went through few hand seals and said, Kuchios no Jutsu, and a small tall toad appeared beside Minato. This toad was Giratora, whose job was to store scrolls inside himself. Minato asked the toad to stand a bit to the side and explained him what he was going to do and his part in it. Although the toad was surprised upon hearing this predicament, he nodded his head and stepped aside. Minato then took out 3 scrolls and laid one of them on the ground and formed the tiger seal. Fuin Kai. Seal release, Minato shouted. The scroll glowed, then suddenly an altar appeared and Fuinjutsu marks ran across the ground until they reached the Kyuubi and the Sanbai, who were entangled in them shortly. The Sanbai by this time had woken up but could not do anything. The Kyuubi roared at him and Minato just smirked and began to do what he set out to. He took the second scroll and scribbled within it quickly, then rolled it up and set it to the side. He then flew through several hand signs and shouted, Shiki Fuin, dead demon consuming seal. There was an ominous chakra that surrounded Minato and behind him appeared the Shinigami. Minato looked at his son and placed him on the altar and shed some more tears. Kushina too looked at her son and was openly crying by now. She felt horrible to be doing this to her own son. In the beginning, Minato had thought about taking the Kyuubi with him and only sealing the 3 tails in Naruto, but then crossed that out of his mind, thinking that his son was the perfect vessel. With the genes of the Uzumaki and Namikaze family, his son is bound to have incredible chakra reserves and potency, and will be able to control the Kyuubi and the Sanbai in time. The question was, could he draw on the Shinigami enough to be able to seal both the bijus in his son safely and completely? He mulled over it for a while and decided with a yes. Minato then looked at both the Kyuubi and the Sanbai and saw both them glaring at him. Minato saw that Kushina's hold on the Kyuubi was weakening slightly as it was beginning to get free. That Yondaime is planning to seal Isabu and me into that gaki? No. This can't be happening. Kyuubi thought with anger boiling inside of him. Ah man. Not again. Half of my strength was gone breaking free of that seal and now I'm going to be sealed again along with Kurama. Isabu thought, cursing his bad luck. The Kyuubi suddenly raised one of its claws intending to kill Naruto, but just as it was about to reach him, Minato and Kushina jumped in front of him, saving Naruto from the danger. One of Kyuubi's claw was now sticking out Kushina and Minato who was standing behind her. There was blood dripping from the claw and some of it fell on Naruto's stomach who was now awake as if sensing his parents' pain, he started crying. Minato looked at Kushina who was staring at Naruto sadly. He was glad that he still had some strength left to complete the ritual and especially that Naruto was safe from harm. Jiraiya, Tsunade and Hiruzen were now standing on top on Gamabunta who Jiraiya had summoned again a short while ago. All of them were about to run in seeing the Kyuubi trying to finish off Naruto before he could be sealed again. They did not know whether to be glad that Naruto was safe or cry about the fact that both Minato and Kushina were just impaled by one of Kyuubi's claw. Tsunade was openly weeping now, looking at the scene in front of her. Kushi-chan, I don't have much time left. We should probably say our last words to our Naruto before that. I want to seal some of our chakra into Naruto before we die. It will a while before we see him again. Minato said, breathing heavily with blood coming out of his mouth. Kushina just kept staring at Naruto lovingly and said, Thank you Minato-kun. Thank you for everything you have done for me. Oh, did I wake you up little Naru-chan? Kushina said in a weak motherly tone. Naruto soon yawned again and slowly closed his eyes hearing his mother's voice. Kushina. Minato said. Don't say such things Kushi-chan. You made me Yondaime Hokage. Made me your husband. And now. Gave birth to our beautiful child. Naruto. I'm happy Minato-kun. Don't look sad. I'm happy you loved me. Besides, today is our child's birthday. Above all. When I think about our future together as a family if I lived, I can only see a life full of happiness. Kushina started saying slowly. Minato started shedding more tears upon hearing his wife speak. If there is only one thing that I regret. It's that I won't be able to see Naruto grow up. Kushina finished sadly looking at her son's sleeping form on the altar. Thank you Kushina. Minato said. Minato gave the command to the Shinigami to take out the chakra and the soul of the 9 tails and the 3 tails and to seal it inside Naruto. The ominous being put his hand through Minato's soul and stretched his hand towards the Kyuubi and the Sanbai and grabbed their soul and chakra, dragged it inside the newborn baby, and instantly a spiral-looking seal appeared on Naruto's stomach. It's time to finish the Hakuin seal, Kushi-chan. Minato said slowly. Naruto. Don't be picky with your food. Eat lots so you can grow big and strong. Take baths every day and stay warm. And don't stay up late at night, you'll need your sleep. Make friends. You don't need a lot of them. Just a few are okay, whom you can trust. I'm not one to talk, but do your best in school and ninjutsu. Everyone has their own strength and weakness. So, don't feel down, if you are not good at something. Respect your teachers and seniors at the academy. Oh, and don't forget the 3 shinobi vices, be especially careful when lending and borrowing money. Make sure to save money you're earning from every mission. Don't drink any alcohol until you are of age. Drinking too much is bad for your health, so drink moderately, okay? It's okay to be interested in women. But don't get hooked on bad women. Find someone just like Ka-san, okay? Speaking of vices, be wary of Jiraiya-sensei. Kushina said, breathing heavily. Minato just smiled upon hearing the last part, and Jiraiya, although feeling down upon seeing the scene in front of him, scoffed hearing that. Hiruzen and Tsunade just smiled a little, listening to Kushina talk to baby Naruto. Naruto, you will face a lot of pain and suffering from now in your life. Believe in yourself. Believe in your dreams. And believe that your dreams will come true. There's many more things I want to share with you. I wish I could stay with you longer. I love you, Naru-chan. Kushina said, crying more at the end. Gomen Minato-kun. I spoke for too long, said Kushina. Minato just shook his head and said, don't worry. He then looked at Naruto and said, Naruto, my advice as your father. Is everything your chatty mother just said? Minato said, smiling weakly. All the three shinobi standing on top of the boss toad felt like breaking down looking at the family moment in front of them. All of them at that moment vowed to themselves to look after Naruto to the best of their abilities and make sure to let him have a normal childhood. As normal as he could have. Tsunade, who was crying now, vowed she would be the best possible mother to Naruto, which he would need while growing up and throughout his life. Minato then slowly turned his towards Giratora, and asked him to come forward. He then took the third scroll and applied some of his chakra into it. The scroll glowed for a second before it turned back to normal. This scroll was the seal for the Hak no Fuin Shiki, which could be used to open the cage of the two bijus sealed inside Naruto. Minato then gave the scroll to Giratora, who swallowed the scroll and stored it inside himself. After that, he puffed out of sights to inform the elder toads of Konoha's fate. Minato then closed his eyes and whispered, Hak Fuin 8 trigram sealing style, and finished the sealing of the 9 tails and the 3 tails into Naruto. Kyuubi's and Sanbai's body soon disappeared once the sealing was done, and both Minato and Kushina fell on the ground, dead. Jiraiya, Tsunade and Hiruzen quickly rushed to their place to see Naruto still sleeping and Minato and Kushina lying on the ground with no signs of life in them. We shall hold funeral for our beloved Yondaime Hokage and Kushina Uzumaki in a few days, said the third Hokage sadly looking at his former successor. Tsunade went and picked up Naruto and held him close to her and kissed him on the forehead once. Two Umbu suddenly dropped in front of them and asked, Sandaime-sama. What happened to Yondaime-sama? Is he dead? And the Kyuubi and the Sanbai? Are they gone too? These two Umbu were in fact Genma Shiranui and Kakashi Hitaki. Hiruzen looked at them, immediately recognizing the two in front. Yes. I am reinstated as Hokage as per the Yondaime's last request. And this is Naruto Namikaze, the Yondaime's son. He sacrificed himself to seal both the 9 tails and the 3 tails inside of him. His seal is absolute. There is no chance of the 2 bijus breaking free. Please, do not tell about Naruto being his son to anyone else for now, and about his Jinchuriki status. You both were close to Minato, hence my reason for telling you the truth. Hiruzen said. Jiraiya and Tsunade, who were standing beside Hiruzen, nodded to confirm what he just said. The two Umbu were shell-shocked and felt extremely sad upon hearing it. But they did a good job in hiding their shock and pain. Hi, Hokage-sama. Go back to the village and inform everyone that the 2-tailed beasts have been defeated by our Yondaime Hokage and that he sacrificed his life to defeat those two and saved our village from being perished, ordered Sarutobi. The two Umbu nodded, and with that the Umbu disappeared to inform the others of the situation being dealt with, and get the injured to treatment now. Jiraiya, Tsunade. Let's get back to the village. It's been a long night today. And I would like some rest, spoke the old Hokage tiredly and in a dismal voice. They sealed off Minato's and Kushina's body in a body containment seal and slowly walked back to the village, with Naruto sleeping peacefully in Tsunade's hands.
That's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on my other social media accounts. Anime God here, and I'm signing off.